There is an event in the Gospels that few dare to explain with depth: the Transfiguration of Jesus on Mount Tabor. While the disciples sleep, Jesus ascends with Peter, James, and John. Suddenly, his clothes become white as light, whiter than any launderer on earth could bleach, and then two figures appear beside him, Moses and Elijah. One represents the law, the other, the prophets. And a voice from heaven says, "This is my beloved Son, listen to him." Then a cloud covers them, and it ends. The disciples remain in silence, and Jesus tells them not to speak of it to anyone. But what truly happened there? Was it a vision, a miracle, or something far older, a ritual of ascension practiced by priests for millennia? Because if we look with symbolic eyes, the Transfiguration is not just a religious event, it is a map of spiritual transformation, a living code about what happens when a human being fully connects with the divine. And perhaps the most surprising part, it was not unique. Maybe it's accessible to anyone who is ready. The first thing that draws attention is the light. The text says that Jesus was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, whiter than any earthly launderer could make. This is not poetry. It is a description of a glorified body. A concept present in traditions like Gnosticism, Kabbalah, and Tibetan Buddhism. It is the moment when the physical body begins to vibrate at a higher frequency, as if the inner light finally breaks through the form. In Christian tradition, saints like Seraphim of Sarov and Padre Pio were seen in states of luminosity during prayer. In India, advanced yogis are described as bodies of light, capable of dematerialization. And in apocryphal texts, Enoch and Elijah were taken to heaven in body because they had already transformed. But why do Moses and Elijah appear? And why precisely them? Moses, who received the law on Mount Sinai, where there was also cloud, fire, and divine voice. Elijah, who was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind of fire without dying. Both represent spiritual transmission lines, the law and the prophets, and their appearance beside Jesus is no accident, it is recognition, as if they said, "You are on the same path." And more, it is a symbolic trinity, law, prophecy, grace, united in one moment. Not as theology, but as frequency. And this frequency is activated only in certain places, in certain states of soul. Mount Tabor, for example, is not just a geographical location, it is a power point. In esoteric tradition, certain mountains are considered portals between worlds: Sinai, Carmel, Kailash, Olympus. Places where the veil between the physical and spiritual is thinner. And the Transfiguration did not happen by chance there. It happened because the site was already charged with sacred memory. Just as ancients built temples over energy lines, certain spiritual events manifest where the energy of earth and heaven meet. The cloud that covers them is not meteorological. It is the Shekinah, the divine presence in Jewish tradition, the same that guided the Israelites in the desert, the same that rested upon the tabernacle. It is the visible manifestation of the invisible. And when it descends, time stops. The physical world dissolves, and in that state the voice speaks, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." Not a command, an invitation, a call to listen not with ears, but with the soul. And the disciples fall face down, not from fear, from recognition. They are not before a man, they are before a portal. But why does Jesus tell them not to speak of it to anyone? Because certain experiences cannot be translated into words. Just as one who has never felt love cannot understand a poem about it, one who has never seen inner light cannot understand the Transfiguration. To speak of it is useless. Worse, it can profane. That's why mysteries are guarded, and only revealed to those who are ready. Just as Moses had to remove his sandals at Sinai, the seeker must silence the mind to see what happened on Tabor. Now ask yourself, what if the Transfiguration was not a single event, but a state that can be reached? Because in initiatic traditions, Transfiguration is the moment when the disciple activates inner light, aligns energy centers, and becomes a channel between heaven and earth. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh was called son of Ra, not by lineage, but by having undergone the initiation of illumination. In Buddhism, the Buddha is described as radiating light after enlightenment, and in Gnostic texts, Christ is not a man. He is a frequency of light that can inhabit any being who is aligned. Visualize yourself now on a mountain at dawn. You climb in silence, you breathe deeply, and suddenly you feel it. Something shifts. Your breath aligns. Your body feels lighter. And for an instant, brief but real, you feel a pulse in the center of your chest, as if something within you is awakening. It lasts only a moment, then it passes. But you know, something opened, and you understand. The transfiguration didn't happen only with Jesus. It happens every time a human being connects with the source, not as a miracle, as a possibility. This makes us reflect. Perhaps the greatest secret is not what happened on Mount Tabor, but why it was hidden. Because if everyone knew it was possible to transfigure, to transform the body's energy into light, who would need temples, priests, dogmas? True religion is not in belief, it is in experience. And the transfiguration is the final invitation. You can shine too. But are we ready for this? Because shining requires surrender. It requires letting go of the small identity fear, the need for control. It's easy to worship an illuminated Christ. It's hard to accept that you can be illuminated too. And that's why so many prefer the cross to the mountain. Suffering over awakening, pain over responsibility. Now ask yourself, what if the transfiguration was not an event of the past, but a call for the future? A sign that, in a moment of global crisis, humanity needs new transfigured ones. People who don't preach, but radiate. Who don't convince, but inspire. Who don't follow, but show the way through their very presence. Like a flame that never dies, even in the darkness of the unconscious, this light remains. In saints, in masters, in silent moments when someone simply shines, without trying, without effort, just by being aligned. And every time you feel this, in yourself or in others, you recognize the divine is not distant. It is here, waiting to be revealed. The seeker's journey is like an ancient scroll slowly unrolling, revealing symbols that feel familiar, like memories from other lives. Each revelation is a candle lit in the temple of the mind, illuminating corners we never knew existed. And at the end of this path, we don't find answers. We find moments. Moments when the sky opens, moments when light flows from the body, moments when, for an instant, we are more than human. Thank you for your curiosity and courage to walk these untrodden paths, for listening not just with your ears, but with your soul, for allowing yourself to be touched by ancient truths, forgotten memories, events that seem like miracles, yet carry the mark of the possible. Are you ready to take the next step? Remember, every ending is just the beginning of a new journey of awareness. But let us go deeper, because the Transfiguration is not just a biblical account. It is an archetype, a pattern repeated in ancient civilizations, distant cultures, forgotten traditions. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh, after initiation, was called He Who Became Light. The funerary texts say his body transformed into Ak, a body of pure energy, capable of traversing dimensions. He did not die, he ascended, and at the moment of coronation, he was wrapped in a white garment, bathed in sacred water, and declared Son of the Sun. It was in essence a ritual transfiguration. Just like Jesus, he was seen as a point of connection between heaven and earth, and like him, he was asked to keep the secret. In India, the Upanishads speak of Jivan Mukta, the one liberated while alive, a being who, even in the physical body, already lives in divine consciousness. His body radiates light, his presence calms crowds, and he is described as like the sun among the stars. The Buddha, after enlightenment, was described by disciples as radiating in all directions, like the sun at dawn. And in Tibetan accounts, masters like Milarepa were seen by shepherds as wrapped in white flames, not destructive but purifying. These accounts are not metaphors, they are records of a real phenomenon, inner light becoming visible. And in modern times, it still happens. Padre Pio, the stigmatized friar, was seen by hundreds in states of levitation and luminosity during prayer. Witnesses described his skin as transparent, as if light came from within. In 1973, during a prayer in a chapel in Italy, a nun reported he seemed made of light, as if he had no physical body. Similar accounts exist about Mother Teresa, St. John Paul II, and even non-Christian mystics like Ramana Maharshi, whose presence was described as a sun in silence. But what activates this? Not blind faith, not empty ritual. It is deep alignment. It is the moment when the seeker stops fighting themselves and fully surrenders to the flow of life. When fear dissolves, the ego quiets and the heart opens. In this state, the subtle energy of the body, known as prana, chi, or pneuma, begins to flow freely, rising through the spine, activating inner centers and radiating outward. This is what Hindus call kundalini, the serpent fire that rises and illuminates. And when it reaches the crown of the head, the entire body vibrates at a higher frequency, and the light becomes visible. Visualize yourself now in an ancient temple at twilight. You enter in silence. The air is thick, charged with memory. You close your eyes, breathe, and then you feel it. A slight pulse at the top of your head, an expansion in your chest, and for an instant, you see, not with your eyes but with your soul, a golden light surrounding your body. Not imagination, recognition. It is the moment you remember. This already existed in you. The light is not something you achieve, it is something you reconnect with. And every time you meditate, love deeply, forgive, surrender, you activate it, even if for a fraction of a second. This makes us reflect. What if the Transfiguration was not an isolated miracle, but the peak of a process that begins with silence, continues with surrender, and culminates in radiation? And if Jesus was not the only one, but the most perfect example, a being who through years of prayer, fasting, compassion, and surrender aligned every cell of his body with the source. And when he climbed the mountain, he wasn't seeking light, he was light. And perhaps the greatest secret is not in the event, but in the preparation. Because in the days before the Transfiguration, Jesus spoke of loss, surrender, dying to oneself. He said, "Whoever wants to save their life will lose it." And in that state of total surrender, the miracle happened. Not by force, but by surrender, not by desire, but by love. And this is how light manifests, when the ego is silent. Now ask yourself, what if you could transfigure too? Not as escape from the world, but as service, as light in the midst of darkness. Because true transformation is not about becoming special. It's about becoming simple, about stopping hiding, about allowing the light that already exists in you, the light of consciousness, compassion, love, to shine without fear. Like a flame that never dies, even in the darkness of the unconscious, this possibility remains. In every silent prayer, in every act of forgiveness, in every moment of presence, and every time you choose love over fear, you draw closer to the Transfiguration, not as a future event, as a present choice. The seeker's journey is like an ancient scroll slowly unrolling, revealing symbols that feel familiar, like memories from other lives. Each revelation is a candle lit in the temple of the mind, illuminating corners we never knew existed. And at the end of this path, we don't find answers. We find moments. Moments when the sky opens, moments when light flows from the body, moments when, for an instant, we are more than human. Thank you for your curiosity and courage to walk these untrodden paths, for listening not just with your ears, but with your soul, for allowing yourself to be touched by ancient truths, forgotten memories, events that seem like miracles, yet carry the mark of the possible. Are you ready to take the next step? Remember, every ending is just the beginning of a new journey of awareness.